Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning.
A podcast where we share with you great insights about everything family from over 30 years of parenting 7 kids and over a decade of equipping parents through our Crazy Cool Family ministry.
So let us inspire and equip you to build your best family.
Hello, we're in a series called How Do You Crazy Cool Parent This?
Yeah, and I'm so excited about our topic today. It's how to crazy cool parent this, raising a servant-hearted child. And I think that it's just something I'm very passionate about. I mean, and I even see it circling back around with my grandchildren, that it's the things that I get triggered on when they don't serve each other. And so I'm a number 2 on the Enneagram. If those of you that are Enneagram people, that means I am service. My love language is acts of service. And so I am consistently all about looking out for the other person, take care of the other person. What can we do for the other person? How to listen, anyway. And so I worked very hard to raise children that would do that. And now I'm trying to do my best to influence my grandchildren to do that. And so I'm excited to share with you today some of the things that we did.
Yeah, we have some podcasts you can also look at. Episode 158, Leadership is Worth the Fight. We have a friend of ours, Julie Pierce, really good podcast on how to become a servant leader. Then there's a great podcast, episode 218, with Maddox, our son, the sixth Manning, and our middle son, who has just really has a servant heart. And he talks about, bring on the fruit. It's a fruit of the Spirit. And we talked about kindness. Great perspective from I guess Maddox was probably 20 at the time when that podcast was done, maybe.
Yeah.
So, really good. He's a very servant-hearted kid, and really a good perspective from a youth on how service affects their lives. All right, Suzanne, Miss Super passionate about the topic. How do you instill a servant heart into your kids?
Well, I guess, I want to start back with Jesus, and the night before he was betrayed, the night before he was, taken and crucified, all the things. He got a towel and he washed everyone's feet. And he said, do this, remember this. And they were all going, no, we can't do, no, don't let us wash your feet. And he's like, I have to wash your feet. And then is it Peter that said, okay, then wash my whole body, if you want to be in the kingdom. And then he goes back and he just says, I came to serve. This is why I am here. I came to serve you, to show you how to serve so you can serve others. And so that's why I think it's so passionate for me. If the Savior of the world, if the Son of the Creator of the universe came, ultimately sacrificing his very life to serve us, to be a bridge between us and eternal life and God, then how much more can we and should we here on earth do that? And so you've got that big, high, lofty, lowly thing. Now let's drag it all the way down to your 1, 2, 3-year-old that you're spending all your minutes of your day with. That's where you get to learn it. That's where you get to teach it. That's where you get to impose it, share it with them so that they can, that's the very first way to be Christ-like, is to serve.
But so I think you were talking about the grandkids, and, we see parenting all over again now as we watch our 8 grandkids growing up. And we see them throw fits, and we see them be servant-hearted. We see them take care of each other. We see them there's being servant-hearted is an attitude. It is and as is being selfish. We want things for ourselves, or we want to help others. So how do you instill that attitude within the child that I want to serve?
Yeah, and so
what motivates them?
Yeah, so the word that actually comes to mind is it's a choice. It's literally a choice. They're presented with choices all day long. Do I eat the popsicle? Do I share the popsicle? Do I share the toy? Do I take the toy? And so it's just a constant choice. And even so often in their age, you got the 5-year-old, and they just walk up to the 3-year-old and take the toy.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. They're bigger.
Because
They're
they
yes.
can.
Yes, because they can. And so we have to remember that they are sinners, not yet saved by grace because they have not chosen, so there's that. You're dealing with that. But you also get to look at it as an honor and as a privilege. It's getting to mold and shape them and teach them and show them. And so I would say, like, I would literally narrate the situation, so let's say, I don't know, two kids have got something that both of them want. Then I will just say, okay, who's going to keep it and who's going to serve? Who's going to give it away? How do you feel now that you've kept it? How do you feel now that you served? And showed them that actually serving we really do feel good. I think that's what motivates me to serve so much is I feel so good about it. It's actually selfish on the back end because I feel so good about it. And so that's how I would do that with my children. One of the ways is when the opportunity presented itself to share something, then I would say, okay, are you going to share? Are you going to serve? And I would use those words. Are you going to share? Are you going to serve? And then I would let
sharing and serving.
I mean, are you going to?
Parents are going, wait a minute.
Yes. Are you going
choice A or choice A? Would you like
both great choices? I say yes. Are you going to serve by sharing? Or are you going to keep it? So serve by sharing is what I guess should be. I was trying to really simplify it.
Clarification.
And so one of the ways you said, so how do you instill a servant heart in your child? One is to articulate what's happening in the situation and let them see it. It's a choice. It's a choice. And it's okay to let them choose the not sharing with serving or the not serving. It's okay because there's going to be an evolution. They have to own it. It can't be something that we tell them.
And you may or may not want to force the choice is what you're saying. There are times when you can't just let them run over. Well, I don't want to share, so I'm always going to take the toy away from the 3-year-old.
Yes.
And I'm always going to bully the 3-year-old. No, that doesn't work either. We have to protect, but what she's saying is that sometimes if you give them the choice, then let them make the choice and don't force them, to be moral, if you will.
Yeah, because when they make the choice, if you make the choice for them, then they get no benefit. They don't get the good feeling of it because they're obeying mom. They don't get the good feeling of, oh, I sacrificed.
Which is also, another way you instill a servant heart in a child is by what you reward. And so therefore, there will be times that the child will take care of especially their little brothers or little sisters. So often but either way, is to say, hey, wow, that was really cool the way you shared with your brother.
Yes.
And really over the top, we think, oh, well, they're supposed to do that. No, they're not. They're selfish sinners. They're fine. And so when they do something like that, go, just making a big deal out of it. Even when dad comes home, oh my goodness, whoever the son is, shared so well with his sister today, and I couldn't believe it. And therefore, you're creating a positive response.
I love it. Yes. And so how do you instill a servant heart? One is when the opportunity presents itself, you give words around that so that they can choose. Mm-hmm. 2, you celebrate it. Another one is you create situations and opportunities. Like I would always, anytime I would give one child something, I would say, go give this to your sibling. Go give them a vitamin C. Go give them a popsicle. Or at lunchtime, I'd give them the bowl and say, go give that to brother. Go give that to sister. And then come back and get yours. And so through just my very actions, I would train them to take care of others before themselves.
And as they get older, another thing is to present the benefits of serving. Think about what are the benefits in school, in church, in family of being servant-hearted. Why is it that people would want to serve? Well, who gets, when you look at a classroom, for example, and who is the teacher going to recognize more and to be more open to? Is it going to be the bully and is that guy going to get in trouble, or is he going to get more, or is the person who serves going to get more favor in the classroom?
Well, and then even flip that on your kid. Which kids do you like the most in the class? The ones that share their crayons with you, or the ones that take the best coloring sheet? Even that, just showing them what others look like when they serve, and is that valuable?
Who gets rewarded in sports? sports,
Yeah.
team players,
Yeah.
players who are unselfish, players who are willing to make the extra pass or willing to block. Who are the coaches going to favor? And so talking about that with your kids at a when they're in, 6U baseball, and, we look to serve our teammates and be a team player. Well, that's part of serving. Things like that you're looking for, trying to instill in your child the advantages of being a servant. So often, I had a dad tell me just this weekend, he said, you know what, I'm learning from you. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I hope it's good. He goes, you talk about how in a family we are a small business and we focus too much on operations and not enough on sales. He said, I am really trying to focus on selling a way of life. Well,
Good.
In order to sell a servant-hearted way of life, we have to sell the benefits of it, because there's definitely perceived disadvantages of, I don't get what I want.
Right.
And so how do we overcome I don't get what I want with something better?
And showing them that what they want is different than what they want.
Choice A or choice A again, I guess. But really what you're saying is that serving brings out better things than being selfish. We are, when we serve, you even mentioned at the very first about just the joy of serving others and seeing them, as well as just the way our life lives when we are servant-hearted and we get to love others. We get more benefit out of life.
Yeah, I mean, I just think of just like this exercise right here. If you have a child and you say, okay, I'm gonna give you something, I don't know, a toy or whatever that is, a cookie, and you hand it to them and you say, how did that feel? Did that feel good? And then you just take it. You take it from, how did that feel? Did that feel good? It's just showing them the difference between taking and giving. I think that we underestimate being able to use children's responses and reactions and using that to help build their little character and who they are.
Well, think about that. I mean, is to say that, let's play that out as a parent. You have authority and control over your child, especially a young child. And so thinking about parenting exercises like that, of putting a cookie in their hand and just saying, okay, do you like having that cookie? Okay. And you're joking, you're kind of halfway joking, but you're not being serious, but you're saying, I'm going to come take that cookie, and because I can, I'm big and strong, and I'm going to take that cookie.
Because I want it. Yeah. I want that cookie.
And I'm going to eat that cookie. How does that make you feel? Well, now, what if you do that to your little brother? How do you think that makes him feel? Oh, well, he's going to feel, but now let me do this. Let me say you didn't have a cookie at all. And I come to you and I say, hey, you want a cookie? What are you going to do? You're going to say, wow, that's amazing. Great. I want that cookie. And then what if you did the same thing with your little brother and you gave him a cookie? Doesn't you see how that makes him feel? How does it make you feel? Just going through those things. Suzanne, I think you may have talked about this in the last podcast, is creating scenarios so that you can, maybe it was this podcast, I don't know.
It was what we just talked about. And you explained it so perfectly. Like I said that, and then you played it out perfectly on what the parent would say and what the child would say and what the parent would say. And so we just encourage you parents, what would that look like if the goal is to raise a servant-hearted child and now you started looking for opportunities to do that? And you looked for chances to teach them proactively, but also using the situations that they put themselves in.
And so often, like with guys especially, and because, we're so sports oriented most of the time, I say, how would you ever think about your son learning to shoot a basketball when you never took him out and showed him how to shoot a basketball?
Yeah.
How would that happen? And so how is your kid ever going to become a servant-hearted kid if you don't look for opportunities to instill it into them, which also relates to another thing I think we did a lot to help create servant-hearted kids was they served with us.
Yeah.
And so that was, it's not just example. Example's one thing. I do think that if kids see you as a servant-hearted person, then they're going to model that because they model what sometimes we don't like what they're modeling, but if we're servant-hearted, then that's a good thing. But also, like, we would, for example, we did children's ministry at our church. And so we did that. One of the reasons because we wanted to be where our kids were. But as they got older, they served with us in children's ministry. And so that created a model of servitude in their hearts.
Yeah, and so another reason I think that it's important to teach kids to be servant-hearted is because when they are given to us as small, tiny babies, they are fully self-centered. The world completely revolves around them and no one else, and so it's our job to open their eyes, to lift their eyes, and to see others, and that's what's to seeing others helps them not be self-centered because they're not thinking about themselves; they're thinking about others. And so you literally are taking them on a progression of selfish, self-centered, it's all about me, the world revolves around me, to looking out for others, to pay attention to others, to serving, because what serving does is it then leads into loving. It leads into relationships at the highest level. And so the doorway into that is serving.
So I'm going to change direction on you a little bit. And because I see this happen in the church, especially to men. And so in that, what happens is we're told in the church to be servants. So therefore we become doormats.
Why?
Because
that's dumb.
Because we think it's our job to
be run over.
Yes, we think that being a servant is to let others have their way all the time. That's the definition of some people in the church, and sometimes it relates to people who are insecure and things like that. They think, oh, well, I need to be, or we're told as a man that we are to be servant-hearted and be a servant leader. But I think sometimes it leads to a lack of independence, a lack of stepping up and leading well, because we kind of roll over. And so how do you teach, especially a young man, but I think it's both genders, to be a servant-hearted while still being, I don't know about independent, but being a strong leader as well, and being, what do you think is, because I think, that's happened with us as our kids are servant-hearted, but they're kind of assertive too.
They're leaders. They are. They're always chosen to be leaders. Well, so as you're talking, the vision that I keep getting in my head is Jesus turning over tables in the temple. I mean, and so Jesus wasn't meek. He wasn't a wimp. No one ever ran over him. No one ever told him what to do. I mean, he didn't argue, but he sure never gave in to the Pharisees or the Sadducees. He never did. He healed on the Sabbath. He paid his tax. He got it from a fish's mouth. I mean, you just go through all of the scenarios of Jesus, and he was sent to be a servant, and he was a servant. And so, I mean, to answer your question, I think that it's all about you're taking your eyes off of yourself and you're looking out for the next person. But if the next person is selfish, if they're destructive, if they've got tables set up in the temple and they're robbing people of their sacrifices that they're supposed to give, then you're not serving. Jesus didn't go in and serve them. He went in and told them, no, that's not right. And so I think the point that you're trying to bring up is that there is truth and there's righteousness that is got to be embedded into our children, and into ourselves, so that we know where to serve, where to say yes, where to say no, where to have our voice.
Yeah, I also think that serving does not mean being taken advantage of, and so often in situations, someone who is a more selfish person may, they'll even try to find people who are servant-hearted, and they'll take advantage of them. And
for sure,
some of that means, and that can happen in a marriage where one person is more dominant than the others, and that person, well, I'm just trying to serve and love. No, man, maybe you need to, and maybe you need to step up and make your voice heard in the situation. And now we can still do it with kindness, and we can still do it but sometimes I think that we are inadvertently, there's a spectrum. You don't want to create a selfish kid. You also don't want to create a doormat. And so you're always trying to run that balance of getting your child to be because we're talking about being servant-hearted in this case, but we're also training leaders as well, and we're training people to, to hear the Lord's voice and to go after it.
Yeah, another concept, just kind of off to the side, is to find your good yes and your good no, and you need to teach your children that for sure in this day and age. You for sure, like you don't want to teach your child in this day and age complete obedience, because you don't want some adult to take advantage of them. Your child needs to know a no. They need to know a good solid no, and they need to know a good yes. And so I think that goes right along with serving as well. Once again, it's just practicing where's a good place, where's a good yes to serve, and where's a good way to do that. And I don't want to scare you off with this big world thing. I want to take you back into your living room with your children that are not getting along. I just want to go simple there. And that's where you're going to start with serving. You're going to start with them seeing their sibling before themselves, better, not above themselves, but not even above themselves. Just the act of serving is above whatever it is that they're fighting over. So, I don't know.
And it can also, as we start to land this plane, teaching servant-hearted children may look different based on your personality style. For example, Suzanne is a very servant-hearted person, very much so. Thinks about the other person all the time.
Drives Don crazy.
Yeah. No, I didn't say it like, I so
I'm like, stop talking. It's their turn to talk.
But, for example, I am incredibly loyal. And so, so I will teach more through loyalty than through service. This is what we do.
And hard work. You're a 3 on the Enneagram. You're an achiever. You get the job done, get it done well. And so our kids would not work hard if it was up to me.
That's not
They'd
true.
serve others well.
But I mean,
they'd work hard for others.
But loyalty is another way that you teach serving. We take care of things. We don't leave things. We don't, and your idea of servanthood may be different. For example, if we leave a restaurant, Suzanne will always clean up for the waiters. And I'm like, there's some restaurants, to me, we put our food away. Some restaurants we have waiters and they do it, but not for Suzanne, because they're all places we clean up, and even then, because that's what she values that.
Well, I do. I know it's crazy. And where that goes is it goes back to servant hearting and teaching my kids and showing them the value of leaving a place better than you found it. And so if I'm walking along and I see a piece of trash on the ground in the parking lot, I will pick it up, because I want to leave the place better than I found it. If I use a shopping cart, I'm going to take it back. Actually, Bash and I were going to the grocery store the other day, and there were 4 shopping carts in the parking lot. I grabbed 2, and I have him grab 2. And he's like, Yaya, why are we doing this? And I said, because somebody else left them out there, and they're going to roll around, and they're going to hit somebody's car, and we want to leave the place better than we found it. And so just creating an opportunity to take care of someone else's stuff is a great way to teach serving.
But on the other hand, there's been times when we've been involved in a sports team, and that wasn't going well, and so Suzanne was like, maybe we don't need to finish that, or maybe we don't need to. Maybe that practice isn't that important. I'm like,
let's skip that practice and go do something with the family.
And I'm like, no, because we committed to this team, and it is very important that we do that. So, like with the restaurant, something might not be as important to me as it is to her. With the team, maybe something is important to me that's not as important to her. And so our point to that is neither one of those are bad.
Yeah.
It's training in servant-heartedness, but using your own personality style to do it, and thinking that, and that's okay. But both of you are agreeing on, we talk a lot about this, about agreeing on values, and you may have different methods. Well, this is a great example of that, where we may have different methods to do it, but we both agree that we want to have servant-hearted kids.
Yeah, so let's make it practical. We want to talk about, we're doing CCCs, and so this is Crazy Cool Change. How are we going to change our kids from where they are now to 1 or 2 steps closer to being more servant-hearted? One of the ways I would do that is the scripture, Mark 10:45. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So what would it look like if you memorize that as a family and you put before you, Jesus came to serve, and so we are going to serve. We want to be like Jesus, and one of the best ways to be like Jesus is to serve. And so that's one of the ways. What's another way, another practical way that families could get their kids to practice serving?
Oh, rewards like ice cream work. I mean, just give them ice, but no, seriously, if there's, rewards work, if a child is serving, or sometimes you can even make a game out of it, but just noticing when I believe that's super impactful, is to what you encourage happens, and if you can build that into your family structure of just noticing when your child does something good in general.
Yeah.
But in this case, we're talking about in particular serving. You're like, wow, that's amazing, making a big deal out of it. And then maybe sometimes there is a reward that comes from it, is that because you did this, I want to give you this, whether that may be an extra snack or whatever it is. I mean, they're not dogs, but we don't just train them like dogs. But
sit, baby, sit.
But rewards do work, and I think they're valuable.
Well, and I mean, and I love what you said. Like maybe do a challenge. Do a game. I think you said that. And so if you're wanting to introduce this concept of serving, then one of the best ways to do that is to create a serving game, and maybe even write down 10 ways you could serve, and everybody that gets a check mark, and at the end of it, everybody gets an ice cream or something like that. And so that might be a fun way to introduce.
And I think the last thing I'll say about it is that sometimes, kids expect you to serve your kids, but when you serve your spouse, or when you even serve your parents, like so often, maybe you've got a tough relationship with your parents or your in-laws, but you still serve them, and you treat them well because and they see that, grandma and grandpa are like this, but mom is like this. Mm-hmm. When that happens, I mean, Jesus, somewhere it says, and I think in Matthew 5 or 6 in the Sermon on the Mount, that it's really easy to love those who love you, but he says, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. So when we in love can also equate to serve. Mm-hmm. So when we serve those who are hard to love, then, and maybe sometimes that's our spouse, or maybe sometimes that's, our parents or in-laws or things like that, brothers and sisters, that your brothers and sisters, then what can you do to serve them? And when you're kids, you think, maybe my kids don't see it, but they do. And they will see it, and they will see that example, and it leads to where your example becomes even more important than your instruction. You can talk about serving all you want, but if you're not actually practicing it when you have the opportunities to do it, especially in difficult situations, your kids go, I don't know that I'm buying into that because mom or dad's not buying into it.
Yeah, and along with that, where you talk about serving your spouse, they see that, but what would it look like if we brought it to their attention even more? Look at Dad out there mowing the lawn, serving our whole family so we can play outside in the yard and not have chiggers bite us. Or look at Dad's going off to work again, and he's going to work all day long serving our family so that we can pay the bills and live in our house and go on vacation. Look at Mom made the best dinner ever. She served our whole family. Mom went to the grocery store. And so maybe even elevating those roles of your spouse that they're serving and bringing that to your children's attention, because what we pay attention to is what will bring about change, is who we become. It's who we are. And so if you want to make a crazy cool change, you want to have a more servant-hearted child, then talk about it, celebrate it, and create opportunities to do it.
Happy summer as we move in. I hope you have a great
wrapping
summer.
up spring.
We're going to be we're moving on into our summer series, and super excited about that. And final thing, just if you're not on our email list, we're doing some great new things with a new opportunity called the Playbook. And so get in, sign up for our email. Also get your friends signed up, and we will continue to work with you throughout the summer. In the meantime, go be crazy parents, crazycoolfamily.com.